I don't know, chopping some wood and a splinter went and killed him. So the Brisa says in that case, if a person dies, you are potter, came without permission, you weren't aware he was there. And that's what he said. Then if he came in with permission, the Brisa says Yechayiv. So the first version is that the first interpretation of Chani's comment was on that Brisa saying when you came in with permission, and the din is that you are chayiv. He means only that you are chayiv in paying the four things. Nezek, tsar. If you hurt the guy, you pay the different payments except wages because you had no intention of humiliating. But nevertheless, you are potter from Golus. Even though you came with permission, you're potter from Golus. Why? Because it's different than the paradigm of a forest. In a forest, each one went in their own place. Here, the guy came into your house. Therefore, you're potter from Golus. Rabbi disagrees. Rabbi says, I agree that you're potter from Golus, but for exactly the opposite reason. It doesn't make sense. If I get a guy permission, then I should be more careful. I should, on the contrary, I should be chayiv. You know why I'm not chayiv from Golus? Because it's worse. It's Korav Lemezid. I knew he was there and I did nothing about it. So that's version number one. Version number two is Rabbi Chanina is talking about the case where it says he came in without permission. And without permission says you are potter. So Rabbi says even though you are potter from Golus, he came without permission, you had no idea, but you're still chayiv on the four things. That's the version number two. And then we brought a brisa that it seems over there from the brisa that you are potter and for all that's talking about over there where sorry. Then we asked, how can there even be an opinion that if a guy walks in without permission, a guy is there with permission, you're chayiv golus when we have a case about an apprentice, whatever it is. So we said apprentice might be different because when you told the apprentice to leave, you were sure the guy left. So therefore, in that case, there you are potter. Okay, we're up to the top of the page. We'll have a third interpretation as to what Rabbi Chani was referring to. Rabbi Chani made a general statement, and we just tagged it onto the brisa. Now, Zvid comes along. I'm giving out 2 lines from the top. He says Rabbi Chani's comment has to do with another brisa altogether, and that is the following. It says in Pasuk that you were chopping wood in the forest, and then suddenly a piece went flying. It found it met somebody. It found your friend, and then unfortunately, it killed him. That's when you go to Gullus. So we darshan prat lemamtzias atzmai. That if what happens, in other words, as a Blazin Yaakov will say, what happens when you hit there was nobody there, and then it's after I chopped the wood and it went flying. Meanwhile, then it hit him. Then I'm potter. The stone went hurling in the air. After I put it in the air, I threw it in the air. He stuck his head out. Then we keep potter. You are potter. What are you potter from? Now he tags on Rabbi Yosef B'Chanina. Rabbi Yosef B'Chanina potter megolus. This is not the normal case of golus, but I still have to pay the 4 things. Why? You're still negligent because you threw a stone in a place where people sometimes go. That's negligence, and therefore it's not murder or anything else. It's like manslaughter, and you. Exactly. You have to be careful. Safety. Exactly. And therefore, exactly. So you still have to pay the 4 things. So you want a man, the master, the one who learns it over here that you're chayiv in the 4 things. Then koshkin akamaisa. Surely, if a guy walks into your store, why? Because since you saw him, even though he came with permission, without permission, you saw him. You should have been much more careful. Here, you saw nobody, and yet we're charging you for the 4 things. Imagine in a store when I saw you, whether you have permission or not is irrelevant at the moment. So surely you pay the 4 things. But the man, the master, kamaisa, those who say that you pay 4 things in the case of the store, when the guy entered the store, but in the case of the forest, there was nobody there at the time. Then maybe you be potter even for the 4 things. Tanam we learned. Poilim, workers. If workers come to collect wages, the balabais from the owner, and they go to his property on his premises, the nakhan sheish balabais. The balabais, a shor goes and gores them. The noshchan kabel, he has a dog that makes sure that nobody comes and knocks at the door, and the dog give him a bite. But Mason, they died potter. The balabais is potter. You came onto my premises. And achedim, I mean, but others say, when we say potter, we're talking about kaifa. You don't have to remember if an animal kills a person, you have to pay compensation. But you walked on the premises of balabayas, so therefore they are potter. But the animal still gets stoned to kill the person, according to some. Others say no, they have a right to go in and to demand their wages. What are we talking about? The balabos generally is available outside of his house. My time the chenim. Why would the chenim say that they had a right to go to the door knock and then therefore the animal has to pay kaifer? And if he's generally at home and you don't find him anywhere else, so my time to come, what should I do? They need to the wages. He has to pay, so they have to go to the house. Why are you treating them as if they're strangers and have no right to be there? My time to come. We talk about a case, but Gavra the shchir. Sometimes he's at home, sometimes he's in the street. The Kori Ababa, so they went to his house and they called out his name. And he said to them, In or Ein, different ways of pronouncing it. Very odd in Hebrew, in the Gemara. In means yes, and Ein means no. So there's some who say that this actually this interesting. It can't be two words that are exactly the opposite of each other, and they spell the same way. Because how many mistakes you can make? So there's some who say it's exactly the same spelling and the same pronunciation. But is it a question mark or a statement? If it's a statement, it's like they say you read it ain't no, but it's a question mark. Ain't no? Of course, yes. So here you have a perfect example. Normally he said ain't no or in yes. Marsava. In all the modern Hebrew, they all pronounce as "ein." In the yeshivish world, the yeshivas is always "in." In hachanami, or which is "ein hachanami" is no. In was yes, and "ein." That's how they distinguish between yes and no. They made it two different pronunciations. But if you look at any of the modern Hebrew Steinsaltz and all these other ones, or Archcrow, it's always "ein," regardless. But the difference is if it's a question mark or is it a statement. So anyway, he said "in." Yes, yes. What? Marsaba in yes. Oh, come in. So yeah, come up and come in. Mashma. Mashma in yes. Kumaduch, stay there. I'm coming out. Mashma. So someone to say a bit more. A means yes, I am home. They asked me, "Are you home?" I said, "Yes, I'm home." Now, what do they mean by that? Yes, I'm home. If they come in, we meant yes, I'm home. I'll come right out. That's the machlekes of Tutanai. If you said, "Wait, I'll come out," they had no right to come in. You said, "Come in," then obviously he's responsible. Stay where you are. Mashma, the Tanya, person because where the man's wages. Not to show by by potter, potter. Half a piece came to mission. Am I potter? Why is it potter? And allow the curry up bubble. Yeah. About what's the potter? Why is he potter? Surely what happened was they called out his name at the doorway. He said, "In yes." In kumadurta masha. Yes, stay there. Okay, next mission. Shnei shnorim tamin. There were two shoyde, a number, a whole bunch of hechetimtus. And one of them we actually learned in Rashi Mishpat, a very complicated Rashi, if you remember, the was Kaspoy. Anyway, so let's learn the next few missions. Shnei shnorim, the two shnorim tam, they're both tam. They both harmed each other. Then who pays this tam A, tam B? Mishalmin moise chatzinezik. You pay the difference of the chatzinezik. In other words, if one animal committed $200 worth of damage, or one animal committed $100 worth of damage, the difference is $100, and you pay half of $100 50. The one who owes more pays that. You cancel the rest. Now, actually, the big machlek is the Rosh and the Rambam here. Actually, the Rosh is real Pshat and Rashi. It's really Rashi. According to Rashi, it's exactly what I just said. You calculate the damage, and then you pay the difference of the damage, and then the tam pays half. According to the Rambam, you calculate the payment, how much you're going to end up paying, and you'll see in a minute what the difference is. Shnei muad, they're both muadim. You pay the difference in the shom. Easy. What happens? Echet tam b'chamud. Animal A is a tam. Animal B is a muad. Is muad but tam. If the muad committed more damage than the tam, mishalim the moisa nether shom pays the difference nether shom. The difference of what? Let's say the tam did $100 worth of damage, and the muad did $200 worth of damage. But the tam is not going to pay $100, only pay $50. So does the muad pay the difference between what he would have got the 50 versus 200, or he pays 150, or he pays the difference between what the amount of damage was? Rashi says the amount of damage. It says moisa nezek. You look at the damage. The Rambam says you pay the difference with how much he would get paid. He would only receive $50 because the guy that this animal B is a tam. Then he pays the difference between the payment of what he would receive and what he owes. Big enough min halach. Tam the muad, if the tam did more damage, Mishal Moise Chatznezik pays the difference and half an nezik of that. Okay. Now, Noshim, two people had to fight with each other. Exact same thing, and there's always a muad. Mishal Moise and Shalom. Now, there's the Rosh says a fascinating thing. The Rosh says over here is that when we talk about two animals having a fight, we're talking about they both fought at the same time. Sorry, we're talking about one animal. What do you call it? One animal hit the other one, and then a while later, the other animal came back and hit this one. So each one made a nezik. But if it happened simultaneously, in other words, or it happened simultaneously, but if animal A hit animal B, and then in response, animal B hit back, there's a rush totally potter, and then he just goes further. Two people fighting. as we're seeing right here. When two people are fighting, we're both fighting at the same time, then we're both equally responsible. If I come back the following day and I give you a punch, I'm responsible. But if you hit me and I hit you back, he says you're totally potter. Not only that, I'll go further. If you see a member of your family or a close friend being hit by somebody and you go over and punch the guy so he should stop hitting your friend, you're totally potter. There's no deterrent, nothing else. Yeah, but here I'm doing it. He said you learn that from the case of the woman. So the katsoy says kappa because she could have stopped this person from hitting her husband another way without embarrassing him. No, but you have no other way, then you're allowed to. She's allowed to do that. It's not her. It's not. And he said, "Kosh ken hamuka." If a fremde can go over and do that, surely the victim itself, if it hits back, totally potter. And okay, further. The only thing is, you have to try to ameliorate, the kind of damage you're doing. It has to be proportional. He said, when it comes to an animal, you can't say proportional because animals don't sit and think. Adam an animal in a mood, and a person in an animal, a person. What about Adam? Remember, Adam. It's exactly the same case. Adam in a tam, betam ba'adam, Adam betam mishalom moizel shalom, and tam ba'adam mishalom moizel chatzinezik. Same as before. Now, but Kiva, however, says if a tam, this is according to Taisa, this is the only chiddush in the Mishnah, which means Taisa would hold like the Rambam that you pay the difference between the tam. If you look at the Rashi, the chiddush in the Mishnah is that even though the tam is not paying 100, only paying 50, when we come to the calculations, we look at it as if he's paying 100, and that's what the mazik pays. The difference between the tam damage that he did and the mazik's damage. That's a very big chiddush. But Taisa says the whole Mishnah is redundant. Must be hold like the Rambam.
It's more sensitive to Rashi, the wording.
Yeah, that's exactly the raya.
It's not just exchange of money.
Ma'aseh nezek.
50 just
exactly. I mean, you owe me 100, I owe you 200. Exactly. In fact, that's what the Rosh says. Not so much that. He said more the wording of the Mishnah. Ma'aseh nezek sounds like the nezek itself. The Chiddush in the Mishnah is about Kiva. Kiva, we already had Kiva before. Af tam shechal b'adam, but tam damage the person mishal b'ma'aseh shalom. You pay nezek, you pay the difference in nezek shalom. He says a tam who hurts a person, there's no such thing as a tam. Tam pays full damages. Says the Gemara. What have I learned? What's the machlekes of Akiva and others? It says in the pasuk, if let's say if the animal gored a person, a son or a daughter, kimishpat hazeh ye'asaloi, like this law. We like this law. Just like a shari and a shari, that's what you do a shari in a person. This is how the Tanakh learns. Just like a shari and a shari. The tam is a muid. Tam pays the first few times only half, and the fourth time full. I've shari ba'adam, a shari in a person. Tam misham chatzinezig muid nether shalom. A shari in a person, the same thing. Half a nezig and nether shalom. Rabbi Kiva says kimishpat hazeh is very limiting. The last psukim, not psukim way before. The last psukim talks about a muad, and he's saying if an animal ben or bas yigach, we say that just like a muad. Yochel mishalim in alis. I would have thought if the animal I hold it that a tam hits a person the first time we raise a muad. So if it's like a muad, you should also pay not from the animal itself, but from the animal's worth a lot less than the damage you go to the house. You still collect like a tam that you take from the value of the animal. In other words, if the damage exceeds the value of the animal, you cannot collect more than the value of the animal itself. But how much does the tam pay? Full damages. But what do they do with there? They use words there to say that you only pay this, but you don't pay an animal does not pay the arba dvarim. A person damages a person, you pay the 4 payments, but an animal. How does he know you don't pay the 4 things? He learns out. It says in the passage by the 4 things. A person gives a woman his friend. Each only a man, only a person, not an animal, a person. You don't pay the 4 payments. But Rabbanon, Ima, who have a minute if from that, I would have thought that only tzah you don't pay. But things which I actually call tzah is something intangible. But when it comes to medical bills, when it comes to unemployment, these are tangible losses. Maybe an animal also should pay if it hurts a person. You pay nothing. You don't pay. All you pay is the nezik, and that's it. Says the Mishnah. Animal age with $100. Animal $200. The ain't had a for clue, but the carcass of the animal is worthless. Now, how much does the victim collect? Half of the damage. The damage was $200, so he only collects 100, which is the full value of the animal of the mazik. He takes the animal. So Mastis Mani, who's also the mission that the Nizik has a right to collect the animal. What's the story? The Tanya we learned, Yusam Hashay Bebezni, as well says that the animal itself belongs to the Mazik. but you go to Bez and you value how much the animal is worth, and the mazik has a right to give money. Doesn't have to give the animal; can give money instead. And Rabbi Kiva says we're talking about the carcass is worthless because the carcass of the victim is worth something that you deduct that from whatever the damage is done. If the carcass is worth $20, then the damage is only $80 worth. Because the animal, Rabbi Kiva says, no, the shor gets transferred to the nizik. The animal, the mazik shor gets transferred to the nizik, and the nizik can take the animal itself. The ma'akim is given b'shmos of a bal chayva. That's up to you. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Rabbi Shmuel saw about that you have a debt now. The mazik has a debt. The zuzu comes out and a debt. They can give you money instead. The Kiva holds should fit in. We're now partners. They're arguing with this very posse, which says what do you do after the damage? You sell the living animal. The chotzu is kasper. You divide the money in half. Then it says, and also the mace you divide. Rabbi Shmuel saw about the beidin kamazraman. Who's turned on to the bezin? They should sell the animals up or whatever, assess the value of the animal. But the nizik has no rights in this animal, and Rabbi Kiva saw the nizik. No, we're talking to the nizik. Take the animal. And the Torah telling the mazik, you better give the animal to the nizik. My benayu, what's the difference between the two? It's hard to understand exactly what the question my benayu. The very fact that he can force you to give me the animal, or you can give him money, that's the difference. The Gemara gets asking, what else are there other differences besides the payment itself, which is obvious? What happened? Nizik goes ahead and makes it hegdish. According to Rabbi Shmuel, Nizik has no rights in the animal. According to Rabbi Kiva, the Nizik has the right to the animal. The text asks me having more psach about the mafreya who go to buy your had a machlekes of pay. If I let's say eventually collect the property because the lien on the property didn't pay me, and in the interim I made it hegdish. What happens? According to mafreya who go one of them says that you go to mafreya, it's retrospective, so therefore it does become kodesh. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, you're telling me that he made hegdish worthless. But it becomes his later is retrospective. The main part is over there talking about he actually collected the property. Once you collect the property, then it's retrospective. Here we're talking about I don't collect the animal. You're giving me money instead, so then it doesn't become hektish. Says the Gemara, that's one question. Mochrim mazik Rabbi Shmuel. Now, what happened? The mazik sold the animal. According to Rabbi Shmuel, remember Rabbi Shmuel, the nizik has no rights in the animal. So what's a shayla? Of course, the mazik can sell it. Do we say? All he owes is money, so it's a valid sale. Or perhaps we say that Kivan the Mishabed Leila Nizik, that since the end of the day, there's a lien on the Nizik on this animal, therefore Lav Kol community has no right to sell it. In other words, what happens? The Mazik has no money. Where does the Nizik collect his money from? He takes the animal itself. Because the trader says, it says and so on. So he answered, it's not a sale. It's not a sale for that very reason. It's indebted to the victim. It is a sale. So Gemara said, what it means is it's a sale, but the victim go ahead and take the animal away from the buyer. So what was it sold for? The victim can. What the price mean? It's a sale, but yet the victim takes it back. So what's the sale? Lidadaya. In the interim period, let's say it took 6 months until the victim got went to court and everything else, took his animal back. The buyer used the animal for plowing his field. Does the victim have a right to say, hey, use my animal, pay me the rent, I want to share in the produce? Kamash on the sale was a valid sale. Now, thus, there's an overriding lien from the victim, and he can come and collect it whenever he collects it. But until he collects it, the sale was valid, and the buyer had every right to use the animal. Shmamina, from here we learn out what happens. We learn from here an animal's metalton, and it seems from here that if I lend you money and you go ahead and as an animal that I could collect my money from, and you sold the animal, it seems I have a right to collect it back. That's what we're talking about, an animal, which is and there's no such thing. We know that the din is only by the kucha, only by property, that the lender has a right to collect it back, not by metalton. And here you tell me that the victim can go and collect the animal back. So the Torah labeled this animal as this animal has a shaykhs to the victim. So the Torah made a poitika. Poitika means a poitahei koi from this very, and then I can even do it on metalton. If we conferred this lien on this specific metalton, then it's a valid lien. Yeah. If you took an Evid, you may not pay to you're right. That the lender can go and collect, seize the Evid. I took it in my action and said, okay, you lend me the money, this is security, and you can collect from there. It says that the Balchayv cannot collect from the cow. And you're telling me right here that you could. Moni said, what are you talking about? It's a Tchazah Chavim. And what's the Tchazah? We're trying to protect the purchaser. It's not fair that a guy, in good faith buys something. He has no idea that these loans are outstanding loans. There's no record of it. So in the Rabbanan, we want to help the purchaser. So in the case of land, everyone knows that, there's a register. You can see that there's loans, outstanding loans, and there's a lien. In the case of an Eved, people know about it. This Eved now, there's a lien on this Eved. But cows, who keeps the judgment of what's going on there? So therefore, by a cow, even though you said I paid the gay and he sells it, you cannot collect it back. But in our case, a cow gored another animal. Everyone talks about it. This is the latest news in town, So therefore, there's a koile. The person that bought it would have heard that this is a goring cow and there's a lien on this cow. So that's why we don't make a special account. So the Gemara, my time everybody knows about it. This animal, everyone knows. Everyone knows this. Be careful of that animal. It's a vicious animal. The Tachlifa who came from Israel learned in the Braise, this is what they learned in the Braise. He said, that the mazik sells the animals not a sale. And in L'chayda right now, we think he can't even sell it for agriculture until the Nizik takes it back. But But then you say, if he made it Hegdish, and this is the problem. If you say it's not a sale, that means the Mazik had no right to sell it. That follows Rabbi Kiva, who says that the animal now belongs partially to the Nizik. But then you say, but if the Mazik made it Hegdish, it's a valid Hegdish, which sounds like the Mazik is in full control, which sounds like a Bishmal. What's going on there? Sold it, man. Who says you can't sell it? Sorry, first of all, who sold it? The mazik sold it. A moch is not sold. Who holds that? Mani Rabbi Kiva, must be Rabbi Kiva, who holds that the nizik has rights to it. Okay. Then the share is transferred now to the nizik. So obviously the mazik can't sell it. But then he said but if the mazik makes it hegdish, it's a valid hegdish. Asa Rabbi Shmuel. The Amar Yusuf Hashem Bezin, that you assess the value in Bezin, and that's it. The mazik owns the animal. Can't be. So it must be when it says over here, hegdish is good and machar is not good. I'm talking about the nizik. El nizik machar. El nizik. Machar ain't a machar. Who said the nizik cannot sell it? Obviously, Rabbi Shmuel, that the nizik has no rights to it. Because according to Rabbi Kiva, the nizik has rights to it. He could probably sell it. Hegdish. Then you say, but hegdish is a valid hegdish. I mean, the nizik already has rights to it. Who's that? Rabbi Kiva. Also, Rabbi Kiva. What's going on here? So we're talking about the mazik, and if you talk about the mazik, so if the mazik, and if you follow that he could make it hegdish, which means you follow Rabbi Shmuel, he has control. Why can't he sell it? Look at the mazik. You know why? I feel Rabbi Shmuel. The fact is, right now he's selling the animal itself. That even according to Rabbi Shmuel, the nizik has a right to collect the animal back because there's a shibud on that. A shibud. Not that he owns the animal, but there's a lien on the animal. And therefore, you had no right to sell the actual animal until you paid up to the nizik. But Hegdesh Mugdish, the other part of the Bryce that says that it's a valid Hegdesh, that only fits Rabbi Shmuel. The Mazik has control. According to Rabbi Kiva, the Mazik has no control. Then there's no Hegdesh at all. No. I put Rabbi Kiva. Even according to Rabbi Kiva, why? Because of Rabbi Vu. When you make hegdish and people don't understand the nuances, and then they see you just walk away with it, they think, oh, I can donate the hegdish and take it away without paying any what do you call it, any penalties or anything else. You can what do you call it, transfer out of hegdish without even paying any money. Therefore, so to Chamim, that even according to Rabbi Kiva, that the hegdish is not a valid hegdish, mazik had no right. Still, you have to pay some token. There is some token hegdish here, at least, virtually. Could be as well. Or people think that you don't have to pay money. I donate the hegdish tomorrow. I'll use it for myself because I think, I change my mind. So we learned short time shehizik. Another bride we learned a short time that caused damage. Actually, before they went to a dinner mechare. That means the mazik is still mazik before you went to the dinner to work out if he owes any money to nizik. So the mazik do whatever he wants. Sale, hegdesh mugdish is a valid hegdish. Shechted the nasa matana gave the meat a matana masha also, so everything is all right. But mishama bedin, once you went to a bezin, and now the bezin paskin that yes, the mazik you owe money, so that the animal itself now we're talking about a tam. Remember, tam you pay megufay. So it's not like a muad which you pay, from my proceeds in the house. This is the tam from the animal itself. So the animal now is indebted to the nizik. Is moch is not a sale. Hegdesh and hegdish, not a hegdish. Shachta you shechted it. It means according to this, you can't even sell for agriculture because now that Bezin Paskin, it's already in a state of limbo. It doesn't mean anything, and you don't have to pay anything to Hedi because nothing happened there. And you gave him a ton of lakum. Let's say there was lenders to this mazik, and they seized the animal. The whether their loan precedes this whole event, whether this event happened before their loan. They can collect with the a tam, the animal itself. The Torah says you have to pay from. So now it's set. It's like consecrated for the nizik. Can't do anything with it. But muid, where the animal itself is not consecrated, I just pay from my leaf. I don't have any money. If the animal is worth less than the damage, we go to the house. She bein shalom makes no difference. It's a valid sale. What do you call it? It's a valid sale because it's I'm not paying from the animal itself. Everything's all right. Sees this animal. Why? You don't pay from the animal itself, you pay from the aliyah. I think we'll go through it. You said, let's go through the price. You said by a tam. If he sold it before they went to the trade, it's a valid sale. We sell for what? We're talking about a tam here. The guy can use it for his agriculture, but then eventually the nizik can collect it back. Hegdesh and Mugdish, why the Hegdesh? But at the end of the day, he has to pay to the nizik, because even though the court case hasn't happened yet, but already the damage took place. Because we said before, we go through the process because of Rabavu that we're scared people think that you can take back from Hegdesh without paying a cent. Okay, you got to pay just a small nominal amount. Shachti Shechti Rosa Matana Masha also, so we gave away the meat. What does that mean? I gave away the animal for a gift. Let's say you gave it a gift, they can do for agriculture. If you shechted it, so what? Why is it a valid giving away? When the animal's alive, what do you mean? Whatever he did. That means the 3, 4, 5 months that you use the animal, you don't have to pay anything for it. But if you shechted, you gave the meat away. Why can't the nizik say, "Hey, that animal is mine"? Let the nizik go and take the meat back. Because the animal itself, megufa, you got to pay. The Tanya learned chai, only while the animal's alive. We say that belongs to that. You have to pay megufa. Shachtim nahanu v'shechted animal, still the nizik has rights to it. Hamleim mechores asher yisel asher mekomakim, regardless alive or dead. So what do you mean, Masha Asa Asi? If the court case hasn't happened yet and he shechted the animal, he gave the meat away. That's it. Of course, the nizik can take it back. But what happens? No, but this is the animal. But what happens is it devalued the meat. It was worth $100 in the beginning, but now by the time we get the court case, it's worth only $80. The Masha also means it's $100. We treat it as $100. Too bad in this. If it goes down a price, you don't say, "Oh, now it's $80. I'm taking $80." If you're taking it back, that's the equivalent of $100. No, in fact, this is the animal, and you only pay megufa. So you're stuck. Too bad. Even though the damage, I owed you $100. I cut it up and I gave it away. You can take the meat back. But whatever it's worth now, if it's worth now 80, don't tell me, I have to pay you the $20 difference because at the time it damaged my animal. Your mazik animal was 80, and you shecht it's 100, and you shecht it now, but it's only worth 80. Too bad. That's the yeah. Talking about it further. Me learn out hamazik shibud the potter. If you have a lien, let's say, on my property, for the value of the loan, then I go ahead and I ruin my property. I ruin it. I make holes in it and everything else. Potter. I just cause your loss on potter. Now, if you remember, there's a whole machlekes we'll have later on other places. Garmi. If for example, I go ahead and I tear up your check. I didn't ruin any money. It represents money. Do I have to pay now? That's called garmi. Big machlekes. Do I have to pay you just for the value of the paper that I ruined, the dollar, whatever the check is, or they pay the check that had $100 written on it? I owe you $100 because otherwise now you can't collect $100. That's called garmi. Same thing here. If you hold the garmi is potter, if I ruin the field, you're potter. You learn out from here, same thing. I shechted your animal. That the Taylor says megufa, it's your animal. It's worth $100. I shechted, now it's only worth 80. Too bad. I caused you damage, but I didn't damage you directly. Talking about a pshita, if you follow this opinion, then obviously over there by the case of meat, you can say I didn't do anything. I just took the life. I snuffed the life out of the animal. Right? I shechted the animal. What I read this, it's to say here, hashla v'necha, nothing changed. The same meat that was there before is here. But if I go ahead and I take your field and I ruin it, I make holes and ridges and everything else, I ruined your field. Maybe I should pay. Kamashalon. That's why you don't have to pay because I'm a garmi and I'm potter. Rab also says that you have a paskin and potter. I mamish went ahead and I burnt the contract loans that you have now. You can't collect, and I'm potter. I caused you damage. Well, I burnt the piece of paper. Oh yeah, mamish physically ruined your field. So maybe l'chayv kamashalon I don't. Why? The halacha here command the chafa b'bayla shichan ma'idus done because now case right here, I killed the animal. It's almost like I did something. It's not a piece of paper. I got to do something animal. So this is fascinating here. When the Gemara said pshita, the Gemara meant it's not pshita at all. It's a big machlekes. According to the opinion that says that garmi, if I cause you damage, even as terrible as I am, I don't have to pay you because I'm just a cause. This falls under that category. And we're saying, here's much more than a cause. It's like mamish direct. It's much more than just burning a check. I'm making holes in the ground. I killed animals. Still, I just caused the loss. I didn't make the loss. And I'm thinking about it further. It says the Balchayv comes in and tries to collect before even though the chayv took place before the hezek, he has no right to. Because the trader says, where does a tam pay from the animal itself? Therefore, the trader took it away from the Balchayv. They no longer have a lien on this animal. I understand if the loan took place after the damage, okay, Nizik and Kadmu. The damage took place first. The trader already put a lien on this animal for the Nizik. End of story. Actually, but if the loan took place before the damage, the Balchayv should be first. Bafilu hizik achlechav and Nachman. Bafilu and even more hizik achlechav balchayv kadim. If even in the other case, let's say the damage took place before the chayv. Let's say damage before the chayv. But the fact is, the balchayv came to collect first. He came to collect. Let's learn from here. The big machlek zemara. Let's learn from here. Shmamin or the balchayv mu'uche shekadam begava mashagava legava. Big machlek is you have 5 lenders, and the lender who lent last ran into the house and seized, something of value to cover his loan, but he was the last lender. As a machlekes, if it's effective or not, because some say it's pro. You have to go chronologically. Whoever was the first balchayv has first rights, and he has to wait his turn. And others say you're right. If he would have gone to a rav, that's what they would say. But masha tough is tougher. Once he grabbed it, he grabbed it. The doesn't mean that grabbing doesn't help because the balchayv grabbed before the hezik, even though and you take it away from him. So like no. I can tell you, Masha Gova, whatever you collect. It would have been good. With shiny Hassam, over there is different. Why is over there different? The Amalei, he says to him, let's say you would have taken the animal. He says to the Balchayv, the Nizik says to Balchayv, let's say you would have taken the animal. The trader says that you have to pay me from the animal. So even if you would have taken the animal, take it. But then I have a right to collect it back from you. The high Torah to ask him, the Torah says that a tam, where do you get your payment from? From the animal itself. So therefore, Madach, if you would have taken it, the Torah gave me the right to collect from the animal itself. So surely, you grabbed it with no rights. Surely you have to give it back to me. So that's not because another Balchayv is here.